So kuan murag 30 minutes naman yata ang maximum nga gihatag ni Madam. Murag tag 6 minutes kanta each report kay pag ta madugay. Okay na Mar?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so good morning everyone. Good morning Madam Morales. So we are the group of Gayod and today we are going to discuss the module 4 which consists of 5 lessons. And the first lesson will be discussed by our first reporter, Mr. Mark Anthony. So wait for a moment because I'm going to present first the PowerPoint. Okay, Mark, pwede na ka mag-start, Mark.
Good morning, madam. So the first lesson is external environments and accountability of schools. Next slide. Structures in school. Each school has an institution in distinct from one another. The interaction of the school heads, teachers, students, and other stakeholders, which lead to a unique educational experience of the learners is influenced by the complex social structure of the school by Turka Raman 2015. Structural in school is a key component of early childhood education. It allows teachers to create a framework for what they want their students to learn and how they should go about doing so. Without structure, it would be nearly impossible for educators to get through the day-to-day tasks that are required for them. Next slide. Makibali. Classical Weberian bureaucracy. Carl Emil Maximilian Weber was one of the most influential theorists who was resolving issues on how workers to do tasks efficiently. According to Weber, organizations maneuvered using rational authority which is granted to component and qualified people are considered more efficient, and this is what bureaucracy is. And this bureaucracy is a strong tool to make people accomplish tasks under a system of rules and within hierarchy of authority. Carl Emil Maximilian Weber was one of the most influential theorists who was resolving issues on how workers do tasks efficiently. Weber was German sociologist, historian, and political economist regarded as among the most important theory of the development of modern Western society. Next slide. Weber's six rules of bureaucracy. Characteristics of bureaucracy are hier- hierarchical management structure, division of labor, formal selection process, career orientation. This hierarchical management structure, each level controlled the levels below it. is controlled by the level above. Division of labor, tasks are clearly defined, and employees become skilled by specializing in doing one thing. Formal selection process, employee selection and promotion are based on experience, competence, and technical qualification demonstrated by examinations, education, or training. Career orientation, management is separated from ownership, and managers are career employees. Next slide. Formal rules and regulation, impersonality. Formal rules and regulations are documented to ensure reliable and predictable behavior. Impersonality, rules are applied uniformly to everyone. There is no preferential treatment or favoritism. Next slide. Formalization of structure. Organization structure speaks about how an individual or team performs in the organization to implement and achieve its goals and objectives. It generally shapes the behavior and work performance of the people within organization. Formalis- Formalization structure are those in which there are many written rules and regulations. Formalization is the extent to which an organization's policies, procedures, job descriptions, and rules are written and explicitly articulated. Formalized structures are those in which there are many written rules and regulations. Next slide. Centralization is the degree to which decision making authority is concentrated at higher levels in organization. In centralized companies, many important decisions are made at higher levels of the hierarchy, whereas in decentralized companies, decisions are made and problems are solved at lower levels by employees who are closer to the problem in question. Level of hierarchy is dependent on the size of the organization. It can be all structures with several layers of management between frontline employees and the top level, and flat structures consist of only a few layers. Departmentalization can be categorized as either functional, which means jobs are based on similarity of so depolarization refers to the process of grouping activities into department. Direct supervision through specific orders or one-to-many monitoring of the work processes. This usually means that every worker or group reports directly to one manager. A manager may have supervised several groups, increasing the span of control. Direct supervision is a term that is used to refer to situations in which a supervision is present at all times. Standardization of skills is to ensure that everyone has the same knowledge and qualification. So standardization of skills in which different work is coordinated by virtue. Standardization of work processes. Every work process follows a predefined path and a set of rules. Is a methodology built on established consistencies within work process. Next slide. Standardization of outputs sets up measures for the outcomes of work. Standardization outputs means that there are specification that the product or work output must meet, but aside from that, the worker is free to do as they wish. Mutual adjustment. Let individuals coordinate their own work, and communication between peers are the crucial activity which makes this possible. As a result of a high level of cooperation, it is used equally and often in both very small and simple organizations. Mutual adjustment refers to the ways in which both owner manager and their employees accommodate, adapt to, and potentially struggle with one another to develop working practices and employment relationships. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mark Antolin. So we are done with our first lesson, which is the external environments and accountability of schools. So it's time for us to proceed to our next lesson, which will be discussed by Mr. Anne Logayud.
So, pwede po pa-present sa PPT. Pwede pa full screen po, Ate Jason. So before I start my report, allow to introduce myself. My name is John Angelo Gayod and I'm a BPED 1 student. So for today's recording, I'll be going to discuss to you the meaning of organizational culture of school and how does it help or unsa siya ka-importante sa ato ang eskwelahan. So school and as an organization has its own ways of doing things in order to achieve their vision, mission and goals. So they have their various ways, they have their various systems and programs in order to achieve the specific vision, mission and goals sa ilaha, sa eskwelahan. So it means that each school has its organizational culture that influences how each member of the organization, like administrator, teacher, and student, performs and functions. So, how does each member's duty, function, or performance contribute to the success or failure in your school? So, pwede pa next slide po. Excuse me po, Ate Jason. Pwede pa next slide.
Naka-next slide na siya, Julo. Mag-loading ng Julo. Sorry. Kana.
Nakapos si Ate Jason.
Pa, Angelo?
Ay, before before
Okay ka
I
pa?
before I um define or before I explain to you what is the meaning of organizational culture of schools, allow me to introduce the function of culture. Since we're talking about culture or the culture in school, so allow me to introduce to you what is the function of culture. According to Dela Cruz 2014. So first is it creates distinctions, making an organization as its unique character. So, Ate Jason, pwede ko pa off mic? Kaya nag-echo siya.
Oh,
Okay po, thank you. So, first function is it creates distinctions, making an organization that has its unique character. So, from the definition itself, so kung kita nabilong ta sa isa ka culture, for example, nabilong ta sa Davao del Sur na culture, so or specifically sa mga lugar is Bansalan. So matawag ka nga Bansalan niyo. So kana mo na siya kuan sa imo nga ikaw has a unique character. So dili lang kay ang word from the word itself Bansalan dili lang kay kana lang dira ra kutob pero ang tradition ang kanang mga beliefs and ang kanang mga gina-observe gina-maintain nga mga principles sa society or sa inyong specific community kay naka-inculcate na siya sa inyo ha. So mo na siya nga unang may tawag nga namo unique character. So sa number two is a sense of identity would be created. So kato kong ginaingon nga kung nabilong ka sa isa ka culture, matawag ka nga isa ka kakaingana. For example, na bilong ka sa Davao. So ikaw as a Davaoenyo, namoy inyo nga kanang ginatuuhan nga principle, namoy inyo nga culture, namoy inyo nga tradition. So that's why kung ato di ba sa laing lugar is makaingon mo nga ma-culture shock ko, makuratan ko sa ilang environment or murag mataha ka sa ilang environment, it's because lahi inyong culture, diverse ang culture sa every community. So number three is it keeps social relationship intact. So ngano kaya no nga mag-intact ang social relationship? It's because when you are in a community, di ba no man is an island. So it is a must for you to to interact at the same time makikommunicate ka sa imong kapwa-tao. So when you interact sa iyong community, you'll learn various culture at the same time kung unsa ilang mga principles. So with that, kung kabalo na ka sa inyong specific culture, so by the time nga makig-interact ka sa lain na community and apoy diverse culture, so diha nimo makuan nga respect is a must, di nimo makuan nga makabalo ka sa ilang culture pod and diha nimo realize nga there is diversity in every community. So four is it enhances social stability and provides solutions for problems. So ano kaya? So it provides solutions sa problem since um, for example, kaning ginatawag na to ang bayanihan, di ba? So through ana nakabiling gyapon nato ang culture ug tradition nato diri sa ato ang kanang magbayanihan ta in order to provide help or in order to aid help sa atong kapwa. So, kung sa problems po, for example, is katong recently nga katong linog lang is pag tinabangay ang mga tao, it's because kanang na-experience sa tanan sa isang culture ang kuan katong nga problema. So, on the other hand, it enhances social stability since um, one is fighting for solution or one is finding solution in order to combat a specific problem. So when you are combating a specific problem, ma-eradicate ang problem, then it will pave the way sa social stability. So number five is culture creates new needs and serve as a control mechanism. So nganong kuan siya, nganong kanang create siya og new needs. As as our society is kanang innovating or growing at the same time developing, so dili na to makita nga naga kuan ang naga-grow ay what even this naga-innovate, so dira po nakita nga naga-open ang mga problems, naga-open ang mga kailangan nato sa society. So with that, culture will serve as a control mechanism. So kay kuan man padalitan o di ba kanang mo-adapt man jud ta, responsive man ang mga tao o adaptive man sa change. So sa specific community, kung ang isa community kay na COVID, so di ba mangita og solusyon dayon ang isa culture ang culture dira sa sa community kay mangita dahil solusyon, magkuan dayon mag-lockdown dayon or unsa ba, mag kanang magkuan sila, mag-create sila og kanang mga i-regulate nila ang mga tao, mag-control sila in order to combat the problem at the same time ma-meet ang needs nga kailangan sa isa culture or sa isa community. So kato mao to siya ang function sa culture. So indeed it is very kanang need jud kayo ang culture sa isa ka community. So ingana pod ka need ang culture sa isa ka school. So organizational culture of schools, the source is from Brown 2004. So, in general, organizational culture refers to a set of common values, attitudes, beliefs, and norms, some of which are explicit and some of which are not. Organizational culture can be found in shared relationships among colleagues, norms within the school environment, student and teacher relations, and shared experiences. So, kaning organizational culture, kay ma-observe ni siya sa kuan sa kanang relationship nato, di ba, relationships sa kanang mga sa principal, sa teacher, sa student, sa parents, at the same time the administrator. So dira nato makita ang organizational culture. So next is next slide please. So kay kabalo naman ta kung unsa ang organizational culture. So diri na to makita ang levels of organizational culture. So the levels of organizational culture according by Baumgartner 2009 is first the level of mental orientation or basic assumptions. So kani mental representation lang nato ni siya ang kani kutob lang ni siya sa atong perspective, kutob lang ni siya sa atong point of view at the same time sa atong mga ah, sa ato ang mga kuan, mga hunahuna lang. So next is kuan, the level of basic values. So level of basic values are values that the organization pakibalik ko Ate Jason. So number two is level of basic values that the organization considers significant in ensuring achievement of goals and plans. The members are expected to imbibe these values in their daily work experiences in the organization. So this includes katong pagka-discipline mo sa kuan, imong professionalism sa imong professionalism, so ang discipline at the same time imong time management at o kuan pa kanang respect sa imong mga co-workers. So number three is the level of artifacts are observed in the appearance and utilization of material resources like buildings and facilities that manifest what the organization considered important. So kani nga level is katunang kuan makita nimo tangible things, so material sources. So dili na katunang mga building dili na makita nimo. So ang kaning kuan ang sa organizational culture dili lang kay siya about interaction, but it also includes your tangible kanang mga tangible na butang like material resources, Okay, since it involves interaction, so teachers interact with their students through material sources or instructional materials. So next na po the level and the types. So kani is the type of organizational culture. So it is according to TAR 2009. So first is the power culture. Power culture is an organizational culture influenced by a leader with a strong personality who dominates every aspect of the organizational culture. So from the word itself, power culture, so na naga-dominate. So for educational organization, it is considered not a good culture. So di siya maayo, for it limits the potential of the school and its processes on different levels to potential of person who plays the school head role. So di siya maayo kay ginakontrol man gud niya. Excuse me. So number two is role culture. So role culture, which is bureaucratic in nature, is rigidly based on laws and regulations that don't consider individual decision. This culture is static and mechanistic that doesn't approve of flexibility or freedom of action. So relate lang ni siya sa power culture, however, kaning role culture is kinabase niya ang katong sa laws. Ina-base niya ang kanang pag-control through laws and regulations. So dili niya gina-consider ang individual decisions ani. So walay freedom. Next is the task culture. So task culture is considered the best culture that is established on the potential of all members of the organizations without compromising the goals of the organization, whose condition maximizes the potential of the organization as a whole. So this type strongly promotes the desire for students' growth and development. So from the word itself, task. So uh, each member of the organization kay naa sila goals na kailangan nila ma-achieve or potential para ma-achieve nila ang potential sa isa ka organization as a whole. So kani this is strong because it uh, pave for student for growth and development. So number four and the last type of organizational culture is the person culture. So person culture is strongly considering the potential of all members of the organization, but disregard the interests and goals of the organization. So kani kay personal lang gyud siya. Wala niya gina-consider ang katong wala niya gina-consider ang goals sa organization or interest. Dapat man god mag-go inside na sila imo ang goals sa student at the same time goals sa organization in order to achieve that specific goal. So through ana uh, there it will pave the way for growth and development. So sa kanang nakita ninyo dira ang nga types, ang number 3 jud ang pinaka the best at the same time. It is strong for growth and development. So thank you and I hope that uh, nakatuon mo sa ko ang discuss. And that's all for organizational culture of schools. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Angelo. So now let's proceed to our next discussion, which will be presented by Jason Casas. Wait for a moment. Wait for a moment. Okay, makita na ba?
Wala kaya.
Wait lang ha. It's very loading, Jude. Ano niya ron? Kana, makita na.
Opo, yan.
Makita na siya, guys.
Yes,
Yes
Miss.
po.
Okay, so now done with our lesson one and two. So now let's proceed to lesson three. It discuss about changing school culture. So good morning once again. I am Jason Modifade. And let's first define school culture. So culture is a complex pattern that consists of various variables such as norms, attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, values, ceremonies, traditions, and myths. Culture shapes what people think and how they act. Cultural behavior has a greater influence over student and organizational learning. That is according to Barth RS 2022. When new leaders arrive, they have the ability to influence these patterns and traditions, but making changes can have a detrimental effect on morale if they are resisted with the faculty. For example, some older teachers might become upset if they are forced to incorporate more technology in tasks. So, in the situation right now where we engage into technological advancement, so, as what you have observed or maybe not observed, there are teachers that are not able to manipulate and not correct enough to to manifest the technology. So, itawag sila ka ng mga hindi ka na makaraan nga teachers, they are not into technology kay not in their culture when they are starting teaching. So they are not capable enough to manipulate technology. That's why morag when it arrives, they are not uh, prepared. They are not equipped enough with learnings in using technology. But some are very good in using technology naman. According to Elizabeth R. Henby, school culture is a pervasive element of schools, yet it is elusive and difficult to define. In addition, school culture is an essential factor in any reform initiative. So there are two of culture. The first one is the toxic culture, and the other one is positive culture. So let's discuss first the toxic culture. Schools with a toxic culture don't have a clear sense of purpose, blame students for poor achievement, and have norms to enforce in action. In addition, it discourages collaboration and often has staff. So, school culture, it seems like you are not involving yourself or you're not communicating to the general organization. Like, for example, if you keep on arguing or magyaw lang ta without, if you have issues in the institution, you have to address it to the institution itself in order for that the institution will address that certain issues. So, certain issue. The other one is the positive culture. It is a positive school culture, caring an atmosphere exists exist, and teachers have a sense of responsibility for student learning. Administrators and staff believe in their ability to achieve their goals. So, positive school culture is the one that we observe in all the schools in our country. So teachers are encouraging and promoting quality education. And with that, we can say that the culture in our school can be positive because they are making students more equipped with necessary learnings. Elements of positive culture can be the collegiality. Generally, the school atmosphere is friendly. Responsibility and authority are shared by everyone. One is free to be his herself without exerting too much effort to impress others. School heads does not impose his or her authority strictly among his her colleagues. So there is a fair treatment in this organization. Experimentation, the type of atmosphere where mistakes are considered as part of the learning process. No one is punished for committing mistakes. Mistakes are also considered for room for improvement. So experimentation is a great opportunity in everyone in the organization to become better. So as what we have said, experience is the better teacher. It's a better teacher. And with that, in experimentation, if we commit mistakes, we have to learn and be open for rooms for it because we are not perfect. We commit mistakes. And with that, in order for us to become better, we have to learn from those mistakes because if we keep on doing the same mistakes over time, so it seems that you are not learning. So, high expectations. One's level of achievement is always lower than one's level of aspiration. So set high expectation for high achievement. But according to Robert Marzano, there might be two problems might arise. First, expectations are subtle and difficult to change behavior. So high expectations sometimes can be threatening to students because there are different students with different level of intellect. Late lahi ang mga estudyante. And if we set high expectations to students, then basig dili ma-reach sa students ang atuang mga expectations. But it's better to set high expectations in order for the students to strive harder in studying. The next one is the trust and confidence. School stakeholders like students, parents must relate well and work well with teachers and school heads so that trust and confidence are solidly built. There must be an honest communication with each other. Wait lang ha. So wait lang, Drew. Trust and confidence driven can be given by the schools and stakeholders like the students, parents must relate well and work. Wait lang for a moment. Ano na exam, ha? Okay, so let's proceed. Trust and confidence. So we have to ensure to our parents and students that they are given their totally trust and confidence to the institution. Because with that, they can express freely what they want for the institution. So it is what we need to consider first in going it ensure to inculcate to the students and parents a mind that they have our trust and confidence. The next is tangible support. Support within the school community must be concrete. This means support comes not just with words but actions. So in order for us to provide support, it is necessary that it is visible for everyone. It is not just given by with words, but it must be shown. It must be seen in our actions because if we only say it, so nothing will happen. We have to do it. Kailangan din natin ipakita sa kanila ang tangible support. Reaching out to the knowledge base, teachers themselves engage in different activities where they can grow professionally. So teachers are need to attend to grow professionally by attending seminars. So what we have observed, there are teachers who uh, send to seminars in order for them to gain additional knowledge, further knowledge in teaching. So appreciation and recognition. So we have in schools, we have as teachers, we need to appreciate and give recognition to students with outstanding outputs. So as states here, embedding restorative practice gives emphasis on relationships and that this practice helps prevent incidents of inappropriate behavior from arising. It requires a shift from traditional discipline driven by punitive and external motivators. That was according to Blood and Thornsborn 2005. So appreciation and recognition is giving rewards to students with good and exemplary output. So by this, we encouraging students to become better, to do better, and make things better. Involvement in decision making. Sorry. Pairing celebration and humor. Students don't listen when teachers don't care. Teachers must be reminded that many of students, especially those who struggle, don't receive enough positive feedback in the classroom or even in their personal lives. So, uh, as teachers, we are not just only teachers alone. So, kailangan mo to mag-care sa students. And we have to understand every students that we have different students have their different backgrounds, and we have to understand them if their behaviors is not good towards us because of we might wala pa kabalo kung unsay background nila sa ilang pamilya. So that's why we have to be caring and celebrate and give you more involvement in decision making. When you involve others in making decisions, this will lead to foster a sense of ownership, and they feel also important. So in decision making, so it's what we have discussed last topic or previous topics, that in making decisions we have to become consensus. It should come from the general population that everyone agrees to a certain decision. Protection of what is important, what schools consider to be important must be included as a part of the school's tradition and must be protected at all costs. So what the school thinks important, so it's necessary, like for example, providing quality education. So for the school, it is important for them to provide quality education because it is what society needs nowadays. So they must protect it as and consider it as important tradition. School must have a common values, beliefs, and behaviors that is being shared. With this will help to strengthen the sense of community. So as Filipinos, we always celebrate our culture and traditions. So with that, we can be strengthened our identity as a Filipinos. As what we have observed, that schools also celebrate traditions, cultures, and traditions. And with that, we help promote our culture. So here we have here the shifting school culture from the old one to the new one. So before we tend to become teaching. It's only teaching, but now it's learning. So there is a shift in school culture, and as time passes by, there are changes that happens in the school structure. So sa una daghan pa kaayo o kanang wala pa kay mga technological changes, like for example atong kuan forms of exam traditional, pero karon kinanatay kanang another forms of exam, like for example a performance test. It can be uh, it can be a sort of exam. So that's for the lesson 3, and now let's proceed to our lesson 4, the organizational climate of school. When we say climate, first thing that comes to our mind kay kanang climate change, but in the organizational climate, it is the process of quantifying the culture of an organization. It is a set of properties of the work environment perceived directly or indirectly by the employees that is assumed to be a major force in influencing employee behavior. So, organizational climate is the different from organizational climate na literally nga ma-experience nato. Organizational climate is used to denote delicate blending of interpretations or perceptions by persons in organization of their jobs or roles in relationship to others and their interpretation of the rules of others in the organization. That was according to Cornell 1995. So when we say organizational climate, basically it is the atmosphere of the organization kung Friendly ba ang atmosphere? Na ba mo ginaturing ba ninyo nga pamilya ang inyong mga kauban? Or there might be an issue that occurs within you and your co-workers. So basically, organizational climate discusses the atmosphere of the organization if naabay pag tinabangay dira or wala. So the next is, although the Merriam-Webster, so this slide can be accessed in our module. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary 2005 provides no definition of climate that could reasonably be linked to organizations. Owens, 2004, related it to such terms as atmosphere, personality, tone, or ethos. Meanwhile, Halpin and Kraft, 1963, who roughly related their definition of climate to morale but admitted that time constraints restricted their consideration that construct to the social interactions between the principal and the teachers only. So, mo na pag-ingan ganin ng they refer, organizational climate refers to the atmosphere of the organization. So, unsa ba ang kanang treatment sa mga trabahante dito or sinabilong sa organization. The last one is for the four corners of organizational climate. According to Owens, culture, school culture specifically included assumptions, values, norms, beliefs, ways of thinking, behavior patterns, and artifacts. So in school culture, school respects every culture and they respect it, their beliefs and practices, and that's what make the organizational climate good. Ecology seeks to explain how social and political conditions affect the abundance. So these social and political conditions is a factor that would affect the abundance in different ways. So it can be seen and observed by some or most of these institutions. So it's an a school is an involvement of external factors, man. So it is not impossible that the social and political conditions can affect the abundance of the school and diversity of population of an organization. Milieu helps explain day-to-day decisions by leaders and managers of organizations. So it's on making decisions every day that is a new day. So we cannot certain to what will happen. So there can be decisions that can be changed, and there are another decisions will arise. So it's a decision day to day. Organization or structure is related to the quality of suitability of the work environment of the work environment. It has to do with the support that employees feel they receive from the organization. So, structure. Organization of structure is related to the quality and suitability of the work environment. If suitable ba ka, if capable ba ka in doing and performing your job, so then it's a good action that can be shown to the organization. So that's end my presentation. I hope you learned something. And after this, we are going to have now the presentation coming from Mary Lloyd. She will be discussing the lesson for Module 5. Mary Lloyd,
Po.
uh, wait lang ha. Ikaw na next.
Apo. Paki
Please share sa akong screen. Visible na dahil.
yes, miss. So for the last lesson of Module 4, as mentioned on the previous lesson, school climate plays a huge part in the success of organization like schools to achieve its mission, visions, and goals. So changing the school climate might be a challenging process but with the right step-by-step procedure it is possible. So in this lesson you will learn the three phases towards transforming the school into a positive one. Next, Miss. So school culture versus school climate. So, school culture refers to how the school and teachers work together and the the set of values, beliefs, and assumptions they share. School climate refers to the school effect on students, including diversity, teaching practices, and relationship among administrators, teachers, parents, and students. So, climate is how people feel in the school, and culture is a deeper sense of how people act in the school. So ang climate kay kung unsay feeling nga unsa ang feeling sa mga students sa school silang atmosphere, tapos ang culture is how they act silang, for example mga beliefs nila and all like belief. So next miss. So we have here the four main problem or need to improve inside that school that we have to change. For first is the teaching and learning. So according to Fleming and Bomi 2002, teaching and learning are characterized by the elaboration of rules and requirements to which individual organization must conform in order to receive legitimacy and support. So for teaching, we have to improve our teaching style because we have different level of comprehension. So if you think some of your students have difficulties to on your text you give to them, so don't be mad at them easily or give them a failing grade, but instead look for other way for them to enhance their skill and easily get what they have to do. So for the institutional environment, so institutional environment, a positive place where a student can come to school to look forward for specific goals set before them in class objectives. So according to Madam Clarita Carlos, that she say we can still learn inside under the papaya tree, but if we can still have the chance to learn in a safe place, clean environment, so why not? Third, i- third is the interpersonal reaction. I relation I. So, learning as one is important. Okay, learning as one is very important because so we have to set aside being competitive. Even if you're rich, smart, pretty, white, or anything, let's be equal inside the classroom for us to have a good a good bond and to reach the same goal. So teacher and students must have a one goal in learning and set aside the differences. Next, Miss. So steps in changing the climate in school. So first, identify. So we have to identify the problem the problem or the we need to improve inside the school. So identifying an organizational need and making conscious decision whether or not to attempt to address that need or is it worth it to apply change. So identify na to then kung try na to kung pwede ba siya or need pa jud siya i-change. So second is consider. So consider the nature of the changes inherent in the improvement process. So, according to Hopkins, Harris, Sinklon, and Watts 2000, it is essential that the school improvement process and even the specific improvements reforms be implemented. It is essential to understand that the existing organizational culture to know its source and bounds. This helps to ensure that changes are made only to the aspects of the culture that are odds with that change. So we still, if natay gusto i-bag-on inside the school, we still have to consider asa na siya nagikan for us to have the permission to change what's the problem inside the school. So third is select planning. So select a planning approach appropriate to the specific school improvement under consideration and to the organizational conditions, including its climate and culture. So after considering, so start na og planning of what are the needs to improve or change. So fourth, after a planning approach has been selected, the next step is to assess the school's capacity and willingness to change. This is often referred to as organizational readiness for change or implementation. So after the identifying the problem, considering what it came from, select the planning. So fourth is the implementation. So implement na ang mga ang na-change sa mga problem. The fifth is the institutionalization. So institutionalization in this final phase, the organization's cultures has transformed to incorporate the behaviors, values, assumptions, and beliefs in the planned school improvements. These now become the organization's culture. So inst- insti- institutionalization. So this is the final phase. After that, identifying the problem, considering what it came from, select the planning, implementation. So the institutionalization is the final phase. So raan na nimo makita ang pagbago sa school atmosphere to become a positive one. That would be all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. And that ends our presentation. So we can now end this, Mary Lloyd.